The Florida real estate market is about to go nuclear. And I suspect that in 2026, homes are going to trade parabolically compared to the last boom. And while I'm sure all of that sounds real good, the reality of it is right now that the housing market today, Florida housing, Florida real estate, is not just slow, it's paralyzed. We've got people that are locked into mortgage and interest rates. They've got exploding property tax bills. We've got sellers that are absolutely frozen, thinking that the market is what it once was, but they're trapped in their 3, 4, 2% mortgage interest rate, and they're never going to trade out. Those sellers are frozen, and most buyers are completely priced out of today's market. The affordability crisis continues to worsen. This is exactly the type of gridlock that most experts said could not happen. But expert analysis is a dime a dozen, and I don't have any faith in what an analyst happens to think, because I've dealt with so many of them over the course of my career as a stockbroker, and I know that their analysis usually is not worth the paper that it's printed on. And most of the times, those analysts are in bed with whomever the company it is that they are analyzing. So price predictions and forecasts mean absolutely nothing. The only thing that is true is the market is always right. Your home is only going to be worth what a ready, willing, and able buyer will pay for it right now. And I just left a property that's been sitting on the market unsold for 145 days, and it's not going to sell. And I do have the buyer who happens to be relocating from the Northeast for all the reasons covered in other videos, but there's no way in hell that they're going to overpay for this home. And the only way that home will sell is if the sellers accept the reality of where they're at, which is not what they want to hear. And I could give you a dozen examples of sellers that I've consulted with over the last few months who don't want to hear the truth and only want to hear what they want to hear. And therefore, I didn't take the listing. Because an overpriced listing will not sell. And the last thing that I'm ever going to do is waste somebody else's time, or more importantly, my own, which is why I feel a fiduciary responsibility to tell people the truth in order for them to be able to make the best decisions for themselves, for their family, and for their financial bottom line. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. My name is Chris Igoe. If you're a returning viewer, I appreciate your participation in our journey. So if you like this content, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, leave a comment down below, and I will reply. The Florida housing market in most markets, Boynton Beach, Delray Beach, Boca Raton, surrounding markets, Parkland, Wellington, Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, most homes are not trading. They are not selling because they're overpriced, because buyers can't afford them. And no, I am not talking about the super wealthy. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want. I'm talking about regular people trying to either upgrade their home or trade up into a bigger home to accommodate their family. I'm talking about regular folks on regular incomes that want to buy a home, but they can't because they're trapped or they're priced out. Well, there is one massive change that is about to happen, which I think is going to cause the real estate market in Florida, the housing market in Florida, to go bananas. This one change could absolutely snap this market in half. And if you understand what this change is before you hear about it in the Wall Street Journal or in the mainstream media or from your favorite content creator, when you hear it from them, you've likely already missed the opportunity, because by the time they report about it, it is yesterday's news. My goal is to give you a competitive advantage today and moving forward into 2026. I want you to have a massive advantage. So today I'm going to talk about a fix that will turn Florida's frozen market into a white-hot market overnight. And to be clear, no, I'm not an analyst. No, I'm not a crystal ball. No, I'm not the Oracle of Delphi. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. These are simply my opinions, but the numbers don't lie. And right now, nationwide, only 2.8% of homes changed hands, traded, were sold during the first 9 months of 2025. That is the slowest housing turnover in 3 decades. To put it in context, in 2019, 40 out of 1,000 homes sold. And today, that number's 28. The housing market, the real estate market, isn't slow, it's dead. And the only question that I hope to answer today is why? Why is the market dead? Well, it's because 70% of homeowners are clinging to mortgages that are under 5%. And most of that 70% have 3% mortgage interest rates or lower. That is a financial cheat code that they will never give up. They will never trade out of because it doesn't make any sense for them to do so. It would be financially irresponsible for them to do so. If you've locked in a 3% mortgage in Florida or lower, selling your home is like throwing away a winning lottery ticket. And to make it even more undesirable to sell a home when you've got this cheat code working to your advantage, add in Florida's homestead cap. And I've done videos in the past about the Florida homestead cap, so you can check them out on the channel. I'll link it down below in the description notes. It's been a while since I covered that topic. Here's all you need to know. If you sell your home, your property taxes reset. And boom, they can double or triple overnight. And who in their right mind is going to trade out of a 3.5% mortgage and $3,000 in property taxes for a 6.5%, 7%, or 8% mortgage and $8,000, $10,000, $20,000 of property taxes? Nobody. And as you might imagine, those folks, the nobodies, they aren't. The housing market, the real estate market, specifically in Florida, isn't broken, it's stuck. And here's the part the politicians pretend not to understand. A $1.3 million Florida home at 3% costs and runs you about $4,400 a month. But at 6%, it jumps up to about $6,300 a month. Same home, same income, but damn near $2,000 more per month. And the numbers don't lie. The payment increase is a deal breaker, a deal killer. And the truth is, most people don't get denied for a mortgage because their credit sucks. They get denied because the math does not make sense. And if the math does not math, and financially you can't afford to do anything, then do not buy a home, period. And people are not buying homes. The move-up market, which is really the engine of real estate, has collapsed. Sellers are stubborn, buyers are frustrated, and banks won't bend up until they do. But right now, the system is jammed. Everyone is pointing fingers, except the people who can actually fix it. Right now, the people who can fix the problem, the government, is floating a 50-year mortgage. And if you saw my video talking about 50-year mortgages, you know exactly how I feel about that solution. They feel it's a miracle solution. It's not. It's a lifeline for banks, but it's definitely not for buyers. A 6% loan stretched from 30 to 50 years cuts the payment by a few $100s a month. Yippee! Your mortgage payment is less expensive. But the bank, the lender, gets another $560,000 in extra interest. You are paying down no principal in a 50-year mortgage up until something like year 30 or 40. You are paying nothing but interest. You've got no skin in the game, which means when the market turns, if, in fact, the everything bubble does collapse, you have zero equity in that home. You're just simply paying rent to the government, and you are very likely to offer your keys to the bank for a small pittance, a few $100s, cash for keys program that they'll likely roll out when this inevitably will crash and will burn. But a 50-year mortgage is a horrible solution that does nothing to help anybody but the banks and the financial institutions and the hedge funds and the deep pocket smart money institutional investors who are willing to capitalize on anything that they can turn into a product. But this product does not help with affordability. It is simply an economic prison sentence to anybody who takes one, in most instances. And right now, the median first-time home buyer is 40 years old. A 50-year mortgage has you making payments up until you're 90. This is not housing reform. This is how you turn a generation into permanent renters with mortgages that are renting from the government or the system, which is set up where you will own nothing and like it. But this is not about fear economic porn. There is a solution. And this single biggest shift is a good solution because assumable mortgages are about to go mainstream. Bill Pye, who is now the director of federal housing policy, publicly confirmed Fannie and Freddie are evaluating how to implement assumable and portable mortgages safely and soundly, which is simply just government speak for the government is preparing to let buyers take over sellers' low rate loans, which means that a 3% mortgage becomes a transferable asset. And that, my friends, is a cheat code which helps everyone. That is rocket fuel to the housing market and frozen housing inventory. And let's role play this a little bit so it makes some sense using easy numbers. A seller with a $500,000 mortgage at 3% can pass it to the buyer. The buyer covers the difference with cash or a small second mortgage. And lo and behold, hallelujah, suddenly payments drop because buyers qualify again, homes become affordable, inventory unlocks, and sellers gain leverage because their rate becomes part of the sale, which instantly opens millions of locked-in mortgages across the country. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everyone will be able to take advantage of this potential change, but let's just role play and pretend that only 10% of mortgages become assumable or transferable. If 10% of the mortgages do become portable or transferable, the Florida housing market will go nuclear and explode to the upside overnight. Now, here's where things could go absolutely parabolic to the upside, which will exponentially change the Florida housing market, which I've talked about recently but must address again because Ron DeSantis is already floating versions of this, which is getting rid of property taxes on primary homes, which would destroy two of the biggest barriers in Florida for most buyers and sellers. And those two barriers are high mortgage rates and the tax reset penalty. If you eliminate one, the market moves. If you eliminate both, the market explodes to the upside. Buyers flood in, inventory unlocks, prices surge. So if you're thinking about buying in 2026, this is your moment before the dam breaks. And to be clear, the only time to buy a house is whenever it's right for you. But please, don't try to time the market on this one. Don't wait for CNBC or mainstream media or headline news or for politicians to finally admit what's actually coming, because they are the last ones to know what's actually happening right now in today's market. And start hunting for assumable mortgage listings. Start hunting for seller financing. Start hunting for low-rate loan carryovers. These are the homes that will sell first, sell fastest, and sell for more. Because if the rate itself becomes an asset, and if Florida actually kills property taxes, good luck competing, because the market will have gone nuclear. And I read your comments, so I know this is definitely going to be interpreted the wrong way. I am absolutely not trying to create fear of missing out. I know you're too smart for that. And the last thing I ever want anybody to do is work with anyone who ever applies anything remotely close that feels like sales pressure. If you find someone like that, then please run as fast as you can and call me. The only question that you must ask yourself is, can I comfortably live in this home for at least 10 years? And if the answer is yes, and it's right for you and your family and your financial bottom line, then go ahead and buy it. Because when rates fall, you refinance. And when values rise, you build equity. And while the Mondami effect is real, it's going to take time. But the reality is Florida demand continues rising. And waiting has cost more people more wealth than any housing market downturn ever has. So if you're even thinking about buying, selling, relocating down to South Florida, Boynton Beach, Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Wellington, or the surrounding areas, please reach out. We are a full-time, full-service real estate team that specializes in finding your dream home, dream lifestyle, and negotiating the best deal humanly possible so that you can max out South Florida living to the fullest. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and until next time, peace!